We are entering day 6 of war as several Ukrainian cities are under attack this morning. A massive explosion rocks a government building in Kharkiv overnight. Today's missile strike and shelling coming as a 40-mile-long Russian convoy closes in on the Ukrainian capital. They're ready to launch a bloody battle for Kyiv, even as President Zelensky stays put in Kyiv. But Ukrainian President Zelensky, he's holding the front lines against these massive forces after talks between Ukraine and Russia yesterday ended with no deal made. Joining me right now is California Congressman Khanna. He's a member of the Armed Services, Oversight and Agricultural Committees. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Great to have you. Your reaction to what we're seeing on the ground in Ukraine this morning?
Maria, Putin is committing unconscionable acts. These are potentially war crimes. They need to be investigated. I mean, he is targeting civilian populations, and it's just inspiring to see President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people fighting. I was in Munich. I met the mayor of Kyiv, 6'7" person, a boxer, and he's going to fight for his country, and we need to stand with Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, it leads me to a question about policy, Congressman, and maybe you can answer this. We've been talking about this all morning. Obviously, we are looking at war crimes here. We are looking at one dictator deciding that he wants to take down another government and its leadership. So Vladimir Putin invades a perfectly peaceful situation, a perfectly peaceful, unprovoked country of Ukraine, and yet Russia is still negotiating on the United States' behalf in an Iran deal right now. So we're working with Russia on a deal with Iran at the Vienna talks. And secondly, we are buying oil from Russia still. Why is this still happening?
Well, we have to have crippling sanctions that the president has put, including, as you know, on the Russian central bank. And this is the ruble has fallen 25%. NATO has been unified in these sanctions. I am open to further sanctions on oil and gas. I agree with you that neither Europe nor the United States should be buying oil and gas from Russia. That has been a big mistake, and it was a mistake that I think the German chancellor has now recognized. But we need to do everything we can economically to make it clear that we are going to isolate Russia. And China and India need to condemn Russia. I mean, they have abstained in the Security Council. It's not going to work if they continue to do trade with Russia.
Look, I recognize that the priority of the administration is the climate change agenda. But, Congressman, would it make sense now in this moment in time where Russia is using oil as its weapon and we're still buying oil from Russia? Does it make sense now to tell the world that the United States will be energy independent once again and perhaps reverse President Biden's decision of canceling the XL pipeline and the ban on drilling on federal land?
Well, I don't think that is the answer to the consumer price at the pump. As you know, I mean, Exxon has been $9 billion of profits. I think the question is, what can we do right now to make sure that the oil companies aren't charging consumers extraordinarily high prices? And what can we do? Maybe we can look at the gas tax as relief. Maybe we can, some of us have said we ought not to be exporting our oil at this time. I was on a letter with Senator Jack Reed saying that. And that we ought to be tapping the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. All of that will bring immediate relief. The policies you're talking about may have an impact 2 or 3 years, and we can debate it. But what we need is immediate relief at the pump right now.
But was it a mistake to do that a year ago, knowing that Russia is only getting more powerful in changing the independence of the United States' energy inflow?
No, I think the mistake was that Germany didn't have sufficient development of nuclear and renewable energy, was way dependent on Russia. And we ought to be having development of our electric vehicles, of our renewable energy. And we have to make this point. I mean, how do you have Exxon making $9 billion of profit last quarter, and yet they're charging $4, $5 at the pump? I mean, why is it that we're
well,
okay
listen,
with these
that's neither
windfall
here nor
profits?
there. I mean, the profitability of a company is neither here nor there. We know, and you know, that oil is a global market. So the prices will be reached by supply and demand. So putting aside corporate profits, it's not part of the story that I'm talking about. But I want to get your take on what China is doing, Congressman, because we know that China is watching every move of Vladimir Putin and seeing what this means for his plans. A delegation of former top U.S. defense officials arrived in Taiwan this morning, sent by President Biden, a show of support for Taiwan. Congressman, what is this about? What does this war in Ukraine mean for Taiwan and China?
But we have to be very firm and very clear that we will come to Taiwan's defense, that under the 1979 Act, we are obligated to defend Taiwan. We have huge interest with Taiwan, as you know, extraordinary semiconductor industry. Second, we need to make sure that we're bringing as much semiconductor manufacturing into the United States. But we need to speak very clearly with one voice that it would be disastrous for China to threaten to do anything with Taiwan. And by the way, they should look at what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, Putin's having a hard time. An amphibious landing in Taiwan would be catastrophic.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point that you make, Congressman. I'm so glad you made it. Real quick, shouldn't we be looking at the reliance we have on China, knowing that we are now up against the wall because of the reliance we have on Russia with oil? Is there any movement of getting supply chains out of China so we don't have to depend on the CCP to make our own prescription drugs, for example?
Absolutely. We need to bring manufacturing back in the United States, starting also with manufacturing such as semiconducting, where we're too dependent on Taiwan, South Korea.
That's right.
And we need to bring critical supply chains back or put them with allies. This should be a bipartisan initiative. Look, China, there's not just the possible invasion of Taiwan, the Uyghurs. I mean, they're basically genocidal camps and human rights violations. And it's time that we take a firm stance on that.
Is China sending money into congressional campaigns somehow? Somebody told me the other day that they're using back doors to get into congressional campaigns right now, Congressman.
I haven't heard of that. I mean, I'm very careful before trying to accuse certainly colleagues of that. I just think we ought to look at our national security interests, and that shouldn't be partisan. I mean, why not bring back the manufacturing and take a tough stance and make it? And we have to be very, very clear, though, with China that they should know we are committed to providing Taiwan with its defense, and that every option would be on the table, including military options, if they were to make a miscalculation of doing anything aggressive in the region.
Congressman, thanks for your leadership on all of the above. Great to have you today. Thank you, sir. Congressman Khanna joining us this morning.